Welcome, Gunrunner.
Back at the end of last year, I ran an amazing facts poll that gave viewers the choice between the Coleco Adam, BBC Micro, MSX2, Sinclair QL and Tandy Coco, and Coleco's computer took the early lead and was winning the poll right until the very last day of voting, when the MSX2 nudged ahead and won by just 2%. A lot of my viewers felt hard done by, as they really wanted to see the much maligned Adam given the star treatment on my channel. But despite their disappointment, I was always confident the Adam would get its day in the sun, and here we are, after it won my latest Amazing Facts poll pretty convincingly, taking 31% of the vote. Although I must add, but this time round, the Adam cheerleaders were a lot less noisy with the comments, which were dominated by people who wanted the Sword M5 to win. I think we're all aware of the enormous success of the ColecoVision, which arrived in August 1982 as the most powerful console on the market, making the Atari 2600 and Mattel Intellivision look primitive in comparison. It then beat off the advances of the 2600 successor, the Atari 5200, and it looked like it would become the dominant platform. But a dark cloud was looming overhead, which we now recognise as the Great North American Video Game Crash, and Coleco knew they were going to have to follow the likes of Atari, Philips Magnavox and Mattel by moving into the ever-growing home computer market. I'll go into all the details of that as the video goes on, but I think it's pretty well known that this venture turned out pretty badly for the historic Connecticut leather company. In fact, things became so bad for them that in late 1983, the time of the Adam's launch, Coleco revealed that it had lost $35 million. This was followed by a loss of $13.4 million in the first 9 months of 1984, before they exited this part of the industry completely to focus once again on toys. No final sales numbers were ever revealed for the Adam computer, but it's estimated that around 350,000 computers were sold in total, compared to over 2 million ColecoVision consoles, and the Home Micro is widely regarded as one of home computing's biggest failures. But I don't want to get into the whole history of the Adam in this intro. I think I've already gone on long enough. So let's get on with the show, shall we, as I present 10 amazing Coleco Adam facts.
Hi, hon.
Davy's report card.
What, it's worse than last time.
He's just not interested. His friend Billy made the honor roll.
He's no smarter than Davy.
But he had help. Joe and Peg got him an Adam.
Adam is the only affordable home computer that comes complete. And Adam offers a variety of educational software that takes minutes to learn. Kids get so involved that learning becomes easier and more fun.
We're getting you an Adam.
Really?
Really?
Adam, the smartest gift you can give your family.
Because your vision is our vision. ColecoVision.
Let's actually start this one off by continuing somewhat from last week's video, where I talked about the proposed expansion module 3 for the ColecoVision and why it was cancelled. As I explained then, the so-called Super Game module was replaced by the Adam computer, and those of you who watched that video will remember that I mentioned the Adam would be explored in more detail in the future, because I already knew this video was coming. As I explained in that video, the year was 1983 and Coleco were already feeling the impact of the much talked about North American video game crash, with sales dropping off dramatically. Rather than getting lost in the panic like so many other companies around this time, Coleco looked towards another sector of the video game market that seemed largely unaffected by the giant storm that was brewing. That was, of course, the rapidly rising home computer market, where the likes of the Atari 800, Apple II and Tandy Coco, and in particular the recently released Commodore 64, were experiencing a lot of success. It seemed that people no longer wanted a machine made solely for playing games. They wanted one that could fulfill all their home computing needs in one place, not to mention that the technology contained in these new home micros more than matched anything found in the consoles of the time, even surpassing it in many cases. So Coleco promptly cancelled the ColecoVision Super Expansion module and redesigned Expansion Module 3 as the Adam Computer module. This meant that they hadn't broken their promise of a ColecoVision expansion, and also allowed them to slide into the booming home computer market too by offering the Adam as a standalone system too.
Because your vision is our vision. ColecoVision.
Although a home computer was already part of Coleco's plans, it soon became clear to the company that development of the Adam would need to be accelerated greatly. There were several reasons for this. Firstly, because of the home console market crashing. Secondly, to try and meet the proposed release date of the cancelled Super Expansion module. And lastly, to stop the market being swallowed up by their rivals, who were already building up well-established user bases. This new computer was dubbed the Adam, named after the so-called first man who left the Garden of Eden with Eve, and would feature the same proprietary tape drive as the Super Game module, with an extended 64K of RAM, full-size keyboard, printer, and built-in productivity software. Coleco first unveiled their new computer to an incredibly positive response in June 1983, and promised to start shipping them just 2 months later, which left many people feeling sceptical. Perhaps even more surprising than this short lead time though was the price, just $525. Many magazines commented that you would struggle to find a printer on its own for many of the Adam's rivals for less than that. Coleco ambitiously predicted that they would sell 500,000 Adam units by Christmas of that year. I'm sure you're already aware that none of this went to plan, with Coleco missing no less than 5 proposed release dates, leaving both retailers and consumers who had pre-ordered the computer pretty angry. And then, when it finally did arrive at the end of October, the price had unsurprisingly increased by $200 to $725, and production problems meant that less than 100,000 units were going to be available. This led to many retailers cancelling orders and refusing to stock the computer going into the key Christmas period. Coleco's desperation to get the Adam out to retail was costing them dearly, and missing the biggest sales opportunity of the year was just the beginning of their problems, as it soon emerged that the Adam's rushed development was revealing many other problems too.
Because your vision is our vision. ColecoVision.
I'm sure that most people watching this know that the ColecoVision hardware, and so in association the Adam hardware too, is based on a common chipset that eventually became known as the MSX standard. This hardware design came about after the ASCII Corporation, Microsoft Japan and Spectra Video joined forces to come up with a universal personal computer format that could then be licensed out to electronics companies around the world. Although due to the commonality of the setup, which was mostly produced by Texas Instruments, lots of other companies were already using it. This commonality meant that the ColecoVision and Adam hardware was almost identical to a plethora of other consoles and home computers, with the only real differences being the system BIOS and slight variations in the sound chip. Other home consoles and computers with the same basic chipset included the Tatung Einstein, Spectra Video 318 and 328, Memorex MTX, Deus MX and the Sega S3000 and SG1000, which would of course be evolved into the Master System later on. This meant that it was easy to port Japanese games from both the Sega SG1000 and MSX to ColecoVision and Adam for release in the West. This is particularly prominent in the range of Konami licensed games that Coleco released, like Time Pilot, Antarctic Adventure and Cabbage Patch Kids, which was a reskin of the popular MSX game Athletic Land. Indeed, this continues in the modern day, as many homebrew teams like Opcode, Team Pixel Boy and ColecoVision have released new ColecoVision and Adam games that are simply adaptations of the MSX originals. I've actually argued many times that Coleco should have made the Adam fully MSX compatible, with a switchable BIOS to retain compatibility with the ColecoVision. This would have been really simple to implement and would have given the Adam access to a huge library of software from both Japan and Europe, and would have most likely extended its commercial life a bit longer, making it a much more attractive proposition in the process.
Because your vision is our vision. ColecoVision.
One of the most interesting things to note about the Adam is the way it was advertised, as a business-orientated machine. Now this in itself isn't that surprising, given that in the early 80s computers were mostly reserved for this task, with people turning to consoles to play games. But that last part is important, because the Adam was of course very closely connected to one of those consoles, the ColecoVision, and indeed even offered as an expansion to it. Of course, it could be argued that Coleco is merely adding another string to their bow and offering existing ColecoVision owners another way to use their hardware without having to go out and purchase a completely new system. But given the Adam's hardware was designed with gaming in mind, well suited to it, and already blessed with a huge range of great games to play on it, the purely business-focused marketing of the Adam is actually a bit strange. While Commodore were advertising the C64 as both a great games machine to rival the Atari 8-bit computers, as well as consoles at the time of course, in the games-focused press, they were also promoting it as a serious home micro to rival the Apple II, TRS-80 and IBM PC in the business-focused publications. This two-pronged attack by Commodore proved to be hugely successful, soon making the C64 the world's best-selling home computer. So it's frankly bizarre that Coleco didn't follow suit, the only real references to the Adam's gaming credentials being found on the computer's box. It's not to say that Coleco were chasing a lost cause, however, as the Adam was greeted with hugely positive reception with that aforementioned business-focused press. Byte reported in September 1983 that the Adam's introduction had dominated the Consumer Electronics Show in Chicago, citing its $599 price, bundled hardware and compatibility with the ColecoVision and CPM software. The magazine compared the Adam's potential impact on the home computer industry to that of the Osborne 1. While Ahoy reported in January 1984 that early indications were that the Adam would be a runaway bestseller. The biggest draw for business users was the all-in-one nature of the package on offer with no need to buy any additional hardware. In fact, the Boston Phoenix noted that the Adam's $600 price was comparable to the lowest price for a letter quality printer alone, stating it was a nice trick if they can pull it off. None of the other major home micro manufacturers were offering anything comparable.
Because your vision is our vision. ColecoVision.
Probably the biggest thing that set the Adam apart from its rivals was the use of the proprietary storage media. Whilst people like Commodore, Atari and Apple were utilising tapes and discs, which had long become the industry standard, Coleco decided to develop a system of their own. They called this the digital data pack, but for those who don't know, these were basically tiny cassette tapes, much like the ones used in answering machines and dictation devices. The Adam's digital data pack drives, although faster and of higher capacity than the audio cassette drives used for rival computers, were less reliable and still not as fast as a floppy disk drive. At the time of the Adam's design, tape drives were still a popular storage medium for home users, but by the time of its release, floppy disks had dropped in cost dramatically and were fast becoming the preferred medium, especially in North America. Coleco eventually shipped an 160K 5¼ inch disk drive for the Adam to try and counter this, but it was too little too late. These digital datapack drives were also notoriously unreliable and prone to failure, causing users a lot of frustration. Thankfully, the Adam came with a cartridge port too, so if your drive gave up the ghost, it wasn't completely useless, you could just play some great ColecoVision games instead.
Because your vision is our vision. ColecoVision.
Although the Adam was designed to use Coleco's much vaunted digital data packs and proprietary cassette tape format, it could also accept cartridges of course, as I already mentioned, mainly as a result of its backwards compatibility and connection to the ColecoVision console. But as well as being able to use existing ColecoVision cartridges, Coleco also promised a range of super cartridges, aimed specifically at the Adam, which would take full advantage of the much higher amount of RAM on offer. 5 Super games were initially announced for the Adam, which were all carried over from the cancelled ColecoVision Super Game module. These were Super Donkey Kong, with all the screens and animations from the arcade game now present, Super Donkey Kong Jr., which was along similar lines, Super Smurf Rescue, an extended version of the existing Smurf game, Dragon's Lair, an interpretation of the Laserdisc arcade game that wowed audiences everywhere, and finally the pack-in game Super Buck Rogers, which took the original port of the Sega arcade game and added new features including extra levels. 3 further Super games were announced shortly after the computer's launch, which were all conversions of popular arcade games. These were Super Frontline, a port of the Taito coin-op that originated the one-man army genre, made popular by games like Commando and Ikari Warriors, Super Zaxxon, an enhanced version of Sega's isometric shoot-'em-up that had already appeared on the ColecoVision, and finally Super Sub-Rock, another Sega shoot-'em-up with impressive 3D effects. This one was never officially released, becoming a victim of the Adam's cancellation.
Because your vision is our vision. ColecoVision.
I've already spoken in several other videos about how the Nintendo NES was very nearly branded as an Atari system in North America and Europe, but I thought this story was important to return to for a moment in this video because Coleco, and more importantly the Adam computer, played a pretty huge part in the downfall of this deal. You see, in 1983 the Big N had entered into negotiations with Atari to release the Famicom under their name as the Nintendo Advanced Video Gaming System. The deal was set to be finalised and signed at that year's Consumer Electronics Show in June 1983. However, Atari discovered at this show that its biggest competitor at the time, Coleco, was illegally demonstrating its Adam computer with a conversion of Nintendo's Donkey Kong arcade game. This was a direct violation of Atari's license with Nintendo to publish the game exclusively for home computer systems. Atari's CEO Ray Kazar put an immediate freeze on negotiations and cancelled the signing whilst the mess was sorted out. He also initiated legal action against Coleco that both blocked them from selling Super Donkey Kong for the Adam and using it to promote the computer too. Now, you will see a lot of people say that ultimately this episode had no effect on the Atari Nintendo deal, as Ray Kazar was fired the next month, and his replacement James Morgan wanted to reassess all of Atari's business ventures and developments before moving forward. This would end up with the decision to not pursue the Nintendo deal and go with the 7800 Pro system instead. But if you analyse the facts a little closer here, you'll see that the Coleco issue resulted in Kazar and Atari not signing on the dotted line at that very show. So had the Adam not been playing Donkey Kong that day, there is every chance that the NES would have ended up being an Atari console.
Because your vision is our vision. ColecoVision.
Back in 1983 when the Adam debuted, it became pretty much standard for a computer to ship with a version of BASIC built into the ROM. Indeed, all of the machines offered by the companies Coleco would be going up against, including the likes of Atari, Commodore and Apple, all included BASIC as standard in this way. So I'm sure that you'll be shocked to learn that Coleco decided against it and did not include any kind of BASIC or an alternative within the Adam's ROM. Instead, the computer featured a built-in electronic typewriter and word processor called Smart Writer, as well as the Elementary Operating System or EOS, an OS kernel, and the 8K OS 7 ColecoVision operating system. Coleco didn't miss the boat completely, however, as they did release their own product called Smart Basic, which was delivered on digital datapack cassette. This in itself seems strange, as you would have naturally expected it to be on a ROM cartridge, just as it was with the Atari 400 and 800 computers and the Texas Instruments TI-99. Smart Basic was developed by Randall Hyde of Laser Microsystems and designed to be mostly compatible with AppleSoft Basic, mostly because Coleco were targeting people who were either looking to upgrade from the Apple II or looking to buy one.
Because your vision is our vision. ColecoVision.
Another thing that Coleco got totally wrong when compared to rival computers of the era was the way it dealt with third-party software publishers. Whereas most home consoles required companies to obtain a license from the manufacturer to make games, which would then give them access to a kind of digital key so the console could accept their products, home computers generally had no such restriction, being open for anyone to produce software for them. This was mainly due to the way home computers were designed and marketed, as a tool you could use to create your own software, which again goes back to the draw of having built-in BASIC. This meant that anyone could write their own software, save it to disk or tape, and then distribute it however they wished. This was another reason why home computers were so much more expensive than consoles, because manufacturers needed to make money on the hardware because there were no royalties from third-party software. Coleco obviously didn't like this idea, so decided that nobody would be able to create games for the Adam without an official license. But that's not the end of their draconian policies. They would also time restrict any licenses and require any software to be signed off by Coleco before release. As part of this contract, they could demand the withdrawal and destruction of any third-party Adam software if the license had expired or if they decided it wasn't up to their high standards. I don't think I need to tell you that this put off all the major software houses of the era from making games for the Adam, hence the tiny library the computer has. And it really soured relations between Coleco and other companies too.
Because your vision is our vision. ColecoVision.
I think by this point in the video you have formed a pretty good impression of the Adam and its multitude of problems that meant failure was pretty much inevitable. but by far the biggest problem of all was the faulty hardware. In fact, quality control at Coleco was so bad that one retail chain reported that 4 out of every 5 Adams they sold were returned. The author of the computer's manual also reported receiving 300 calls on Christmas week from owners with problems, and added that some callers were on their 4th or 5th Adam. Coleco refuted all of these claims, of course, reporting that just 10% of stock had been returned to them, which was well below industry standards. However, they did confess that less than a third of all orders had been fulfilled due to exceptional demand for the system. However, they were soon left rather red-faced when warning stickers started appearing on Adam manuals advising people not to put tapes in the drives until after the system had booted to avoid data corruption. But let's delve into the litany of problems a bit deeper so you can get a better idea of just how bad things were for Coleco and the Adam. Firstly, it was noted that the Adam generated a surge of electromagnetic energy on startup, which caused the contents of any removable media left in or near the drive to be erased. Making this problem worse, an early version of the Coleco Adam manual actually instructed the user to put the tape in the drive before turning the computer on. Coleco also made the stupid decision of using the printer to supply power to the entire Adam system. So if the printer's power supply failed or the printer wasn't connected, none of the main system would work at all. A less dangerous but equally stupid design error meant that once the Adam was put into word processor mode, Smart Writer could not get back to the typewriter mode without the system being completely rebooted. Though the Adam used a daisy wheel printer which provided much higher quality printing than most dot matrix printers of the time, the print ribbon was a one-time ribbon of the type also used by IBM's Selectric typewriters. This meant that they needed to be replaced far more often. While the print quality was high, it could only print a set font, could only print text, not graphics, and the print speed was very slow. This meant it could only be used for text-based documents and couldn't even print things like basic graphs. Not so good for business users.
You'll never finish by morning.
No problem.
Now, command the powers of Adam with professional keyboard, high-speed memory drive, and built-in word processor program, all in one package.
Oops, you gotta start over.
Relax. Adam, do that paragraph.
Is that legal?
And print.
Adam, even a letter-quality daisy wheel printer.
You did it!
Adam, my launch sequence.
Is that legal?
Command the powers of Adam and program your future.
And that rounds up my look at 10 amazing Coleco Adam facts. But which one of these fabulous facts was your favourite, or can you think of any other tantalising tidbits of trivia that I didn't include? I always love to hear the thoughts and views of my audience, so please get typing in that comment section. Before I go though, I must thank all of my loyal patrons who continue to support my channel and make videos like this possible. However, I must give special thanks to the following patrons, YouTube backers in particular, for their much appreciated pledges: Grady Haynes, Mitchell Valentino, Seth A. Robinson, Carl Olsen, Dos Gamerman, Sonic Mania 999, Paul Daniel, Andrew McKay, Retro Resolution, Matt Standish, James Taylor, Trogdor the Burninator, Mins, 8-Bit Guy, Luke MC, Ben P. Stein, Tabby Kitsune, and Electron Star Collapse. If you also want to help support all my creative endeavours, including this YouTube channel, then please go and check out my Patreon right now, where you can get access to extra content, including downloads, exclusive videos, creative insights, and much more besides. I've been the Laird, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again for another video very soon.